Okay, now the challenge is going to be the following. I see some overhead sheets with like 7,500 solutions. It's going to be only one, or at least one that you can put in one sentence. So some people are very smart at putting 3 things in one sentence. We're going to go around, but before doing that, can I have everybody's attention here? I want to see hands. Could I see hands of those people who say, I feel personally extremely passionate about breaking the silos? Are there people in this room who say, personally, I feel very, very passionate about breaking the silos? I saw one hand there. The gentleman, can you come to the fore? Can you come to the front? Are there people? Yes, another one. That gentleman, those 2 gentlemen there. Yeah, no, don't look back, I mean you. So, either one of you are... Okay, yes, can you also come to the front? So please, we need passionados on this stage. Okay, now, this is 2 gentlemen, I want 2 girls. So, which women in the room say, I feel extremely passionate? Yes, please come to the fore. Okay, can we have an applause for the passionados here? All right, and we need one more, one female. So there's another woman in this room who says, you know, for me this is actually priority number 1, 2, and 3. Breaking the silos. Or let's say priority number 2. After my husband. Oh, women, please, girls, don't let me stand here on my own. We need one supporter here. One other passionado. I see you smile, so maybe you should come. She's now looking away. Yes, yes, yes. No. A woman. So you were there already before. We had you before. We know you're passionate. Yes. Okay. Huh? All right. Now we have 4 people here who are extremely passionate about this whole silo business. Now, all of you have been working hard. I start this time at that table, and what I would like you is the person who is the spokesperson to also come here, because I'm not going to walk around. So please come here with your poster. The spokesperson of that table. Do you have a poster? You have one. Okay, now I'll come your way. All right, is somebody taking notes? Because we want one perfect solution.
Okay. So I was asked, because I do a lot of talking, I was asked to speak about this. Our poster has nothing on it which symbolizes one of the conclusions, which was that we need to create space. And we need to create space for different parts of the system to come together. That part of the problem very often is that ministries are very much organized into silos, and that what is often lacking, so that there's that, like our group dealing with financing, that some sort of financing reform becomes an objective, or a service delivery strategy becomes an objective, rather than thinking broadly what's a cross-cutting type of objective around efficiency, around accountability, and so on, that inevitably or inherently requires different parts of a system to come together. And also to ensure this happens, a core thing that's missing in many places is really national capacity to analyze their own problems and adapt and bring the pieces together. So we need space in order to do that.
This is modern art to the extreme. Space and capacity. When financial people say we need space, I think you have to start watching out. But anyway, space and capacity. The 4 passionados, start to take notes, because we want you to find the best solution that you've heard after you heard everything. Yeah, so you are the jury. Yeah? No. You sit there. You sit there. The jury. Piece of paper is okay. All right. Now the next table. There was another financial, or the financials merged here. There was another financial table. Where is that one? Okay, now this is my jogging moment. Because we want to have the topics together. So the other financial group, sitting on the left side of the room, we want to hear the same from you. Your best solution. And this is also space. Yeah.
We need some camera on the drawing, otherwise people can't see. Is that okay? So I tried to do a drawing where, as I did the drawing, I stopped listening to the discussion. So that's why it's a bit biased, and the group will certainly complement or contradict what the drawing says. One element was that for financing to make an effective contribution to UHC, there needs to be a certain diversity of the staff of Ministry of Health. Now, this is the Ministry of Health, this box, and you need maybe one or the other clinician, but you also need public health people, you need nurses, you need midwives, you need health economists, and a wide spectrum of professions to properly run the design of the financing. Then you need to do the prioritization. It has a very close linkage with the financing, so you probably need a health technology assessment agency that provides independent knowledge, or you need public health institutes or public health organizations that can assess population health and the potential impact of whatever intervention or change you intend to introduce. And then you need to make the case with the whole of government, because the prioritization that you possibly need to do may cost your neck if you don't have support from the entire government. So that's the government. And then you have to have special relations with the service providers, and the way you finance them will certainly influence a lot what they are doing, and you will need to permanently review that cycle of incentives and disincentives that you create and what they produce in practice. So that's a bit the systems thinking, but in a way we came to the conclusion that health systems are not important. What is really important is the population, and so in order to do all that right, you need some sort of population thinking rather than systems thinking.
So after the long introduction, they're actually discarding a little bit the systems thinking and saying population thinking. What is visual is that the systems thinking has all these hierarchies here, and the population thinking is still happy chaos. So I think this is nice. So because I was waiting for the moment, where are you breaking out of the box? But here we're breaking out of the box. Now, how that is organized is still, of course, a lot of questions about it. But it's a colorful crowd. So let's see what happens then. So population thinking more introduced in this group. I think that is the conclusion, the innovative conclusion of this group. All right, everybody taking notes on the platform there. We need to remove that one thing because they can hardly see this.
But not of your comments.
Yeah. All right, now since I'm on this side of the room, I'm just going to look at interaction with non-state actors. Let's move to that one. So here again, a rebellious crowd. Who is going to talk on behalf of your table? Yes, okay. Go ahead.
Is it working? Yes, it's working. So we found a new concept. It's called Health Democracy. It's very inclusive. It's a round circle. In the middle of it, there is the Ministry of Health, and it was important for our table to say that the Ministry of Health should give a lot of information, very transparent with the non-state actors, and include them in a process for patient organization to be able to make them build them, allow them to build capacity, and for the topic of human resources to the Ministry of Health should attract a lot of, be able to secure human resources of the private sector by give them incentive. It was very important in our group to say that the private sector should have incentive to collaborate with the Ministry of Health. And as for donors, the Ministry of Health should be able to regulate the action of the policy of donors and to plan the action led by the NGOs in the country. And so it is a virtuous circle, and when those interaction works, then we achieve this concept of health democracy.
Okay. So where do you feel this is different from what is currently happening? What is the biggest difference in this picture from current situations? What is the biggest difference in the democratic nature of the thing?
That to deliver UHC, a Ministry of Health, in its engagement with non-state actors, needs to build a democratic approach, needs to make it transparent, so NGOs, civil society organisations, patient organisations, and even the private sector can know what it's doing, can be consulted appropriately and transparently.
Okay. So strengthening the democracy around this whole Ministry of Health. All right, thanks very much. There was only one interstate or non-state actor group. Huh? So unique. We're now going to move to financing. We had, that table was nothing. Here we have intersector work.
Thank you. So I'll start with the chart there and come back to more specific points here. So that group put Ministry of Health in the center. We put universal health coverage in the center and not just the Ministry of Health. So the Ministry of Health is one of the components of universal health coverage, and the other ministries which determine which are responsible for a lot of social determinants of health and the preventive and promotive aspects, those ministries are as much a part, if we have to achieve universal health coverage, those ministries have to be equally involved, and those are various ministries listed here: agriculture, education, environment, labor, law, a whole lot of, so it has to be an integrated approach and not the sole responsibility of the Ministry of Health. Now, we were stuck between who will bring all these ministries together, what should be that body or structure be that will bring all of them together. That's something for us to think further. And a couple of specific points that we discussed here was that what role could Ministry of Health play in this? One was being the agenda setter. If we have to achieve UHC, then what should be the agenda with respect to other ministries? Ministry needs to have knowledge about the policies of other sectors apart from health. Make the case politically for universal health coverage with the finance ministry, with the prime minister's president, and with the executive. And so there will be tussles and trade-offs that will have to be worked around between different ministries. That role will have to be played by someone, maybe not necessarily the Ministry of Health, but another body. And we start with win-win situation where possible. If between ministries there is coordination possible, although there was also a question that there may be situations where there is a win-win situation is not possible. You will have a win-lose, someone will have to give up. Then how do we deal with those situations? But to the extent possible, start with win-win so that there is something encouraging to take us forward. Need governance and fiscal incentives for multi-sectoral coming together. And politically make the case of health playing an intersectoral role. And although all of this will have to be very context-specific for countries, for situations which are going through a transition or through, as we say, fragile states or the states under different kinds of political scenario, it will have to be very context-specific. And the integrated nature of SDGs themselves may give us an opportunity to bring the various sectors together. And the UHC2030, we saw that as a network of networks, and how with each component of UHC2030, if it plays a role with certain, with each country government or ministry, and then brings all the ministries within that country together. So if each component of UHC2030 can play a role in different countries. So my group can add if something is missed. Thank you.
Comprehensive. Actually, let's go back to the original question being, what is the most exciting thing out of all the things you discussed?
That was that of Health, and the Ministry of Health alone won't be able to do it.
So this is it is not even a spider in the web, it's part of a circle. This actually, it's even more interesting. Huh? It's a solar system. All right, thanks very much to this group. There was another group on intersector work. Where are they? They are there. And actually, because of time constraints, I'm going to ask people to go back to the question I posed, and that is the most exciting. The most exciting.
Yeah, we felt that the other table over there took some of our ideas, but that's okay. I think the artwork is all Nicole's, but it's fair to say that the whole team is behind it and was really an interagency, intersectoral effort. And we want to bring 3 messages across. Number 1, up here, it's really very broad, very abstract, and very encompassing. Number 2, down here, it's very concrete, you know, very narrow, and it's the person-centeredness which really matters in their settings. And number 3, in between, it's really very complex. Lots of bubbles, lots of errors, and you probably want to inspect later on the... Come on, it's serious. You probably want to inspect the different colors we have employed. I can't tell you all about this, the meaning of it, and sometimes we have capitals and minuscules, but I think we all agree to it, and I can see here the SDGs actually, so thank you very much. No, it was a very nice discussion actually. We had instantly experience from HIV/AIDS and from nutrition, and from that we tried to understand better what is currently the role, and we had these are not my notes, these are the notes of somebody else. But I can remember that, of course, there's very often the role as a coordinator. Thank you very much. Sometimes it's the health sector that needs to provide the panoramic view. Sometimes they need to help to develop a multi-sectoral plan. And of course, we also need to think about the accountability and transparency frameworks which need to be in play. And we also need to understand the goals and agenda. But this is not always the case, because we have also spotted a number of collaborations where the health sector, for example, in environment, in health protection at the workplace, is just a technical agency which is helping with some of the science behind. Capacity, one of the key issues we believe is the good management of agencies and networks, because the Ministry of Health cannot do this all by themselves. They need to tap into what is existing there in the countries, whether it is a public health institute, whether it is universities or other civil society organizations. And what we also found very important, analysis is necessary, but also the intelligence. What is the other sector up to? What's the agenda? And just to finalize this, we were also talking about, to make it happen, about common incentives, understanding the co-benefits, why should the other sectors actually engage, and very important, let's be careful with the others and try to establish trust, because otherwise they feel intimidated or they feel double-crossed by us. Thank you very much.
Thanks. All right, now we're now halfway through, and basically I'm going to now reset the rules a little bit, because the question was not to repeat all the discussions, but the question was, what is your most exciting move beyond the silos? So the rest of the groups, which probably will echo to a certain extent what we have already heard about all the mechanisms, I want to ask you to come up with one short statement about where you feel in your group discussion you were actually moving beyond what is currently already happening. So I'm going to that group now with that question in mind. This is the group Policy and Research. And so who's the spokesperson here? Yes? Short and sharp, one question. Where did you really venture beyond the silos?
So research as an accountability mechanism, and also I think that the system should be able to and want to learn from successes and failure. So having sensitive to allow to make this happen.
Okay. We like this sort of short and sharp. All right. Whole list is here for the different reviewers to use for the report. But that was the thing that you felt you're really moving now to another frontier.
Yes.
All right. Very good. So the jury can watch the pictures here and also on camera. While I'm moving to this side of the room, where we still are, the pharmaceuticals are waiting us.
Yes, thank you very much. So I guess the thing to point out here is that we managed in the field of pharmaceuticals in this health system function to combine all these things that are part of it, like regulation, financing, supply chain integrity, and so on, to combine it into a coherent whole. So basically we are intertwining not only the financing part, we have the Ministry of Health, but also, of course, this does not happen only with the Ministry of Health. You also have various agencies in the countries that are responsible for negotiating prices of drugs and so on. We have consumers education, which is combined with the health workforce, mainly doctors and prescribers, but also pharmacists in pharmacies. And to tie this all together, of course, the supply chain integrity is very important because in certain areas this works very well already, but in some other ones there is a need for a larger regional collaboration, and that is, I think, also a part of the UHC 2030.
Drawing a lot of different functions together, this is what you're saying, and thereby implicating all kinds of other stakeholders by necessity in the field of pharmaceuticals. So the silo remains, it's around pharmaceuticals. Okay, thanks very much, this is clear. I'm moving now to, this is also a big table, I can see. It was a merger of several groups. So short and sharp, where were you innovative?
I'm not sure we were innovative, but we tried to be, but we might have failed. For the first 2/3 of our time, we made a long list of all the health workforce challenges that have been outstanding for the last 10 years. We are very good at that. We could have spent another few hours on that topic. But I think if there's one message, it was really that it's the UHC, Universal Health Coverage, Sustainable Development Goals, that take this that there's this momentum towards working across sectors, and health workforce is fundamentally a multi-sectoral issue, and so the momentum to UHC is something that can address many of these challenges that have been long-standing in health workforce, and something we're excited about. So that's, I think, the main point. And so this is we tried, not me, but it was actually an Irish drawing of a beautiful flower with the pistil of the flower being UHC and all the different sectors coming together in a whole of government approach to address UHC, but also other issues like rural development and broader issues. So really copying what our intersectoral colleagues are saying. Anything else? Did I miss it? No.
Okay. And what I find very nice and honest in this group is actually they say we're very good at long listing the diagnoses about all the things that are not sort of working well. But if you had to capture in one phrase, where do you feel a breakthrough might actually be on the horizon in your group?
Intersectoral approach. Yeah.
Well, intersectoral approach, I mean, we have, I don't know whether you know the game in your country, we have the game in my country, it's called bullshit bingo. You get a placemat with all the words that are buzzwords, and if you use them, you have to cross them. And by the end of the game, so whoever uses these buzzwords most at some point, I'm not saying you are doing that, I don't want to. But, so intersectoral approach is very, very beautiful in that sort of game. So.
Call the silo busters.
The silo busters, okay. But anyway, let's see if we can get to where the breakthroughs, I mean, you say in this intersectoral approach, we could actually work to some breakthroughs. And, you know, I think looking at your picture, this is probably very true. So I'm moving now to this table, policy and research all by himself. You thought I'll have a monologue. It's called a dialogue intérieur, they call this, a dialogue with yourself.
There's been no work on policy and research at this table.
See, this is really breaking the silos in a very unconventional way. We have a good reflection. We have here the space and the sort of minimalist art, and here we have the lonely thinker. I'm really happy that this is a nice creative corner. But okay, so here's a large table. You could have joined them. They have been talking about service delivery. So who's talking here? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Very similar to the human resource group. We have a very long list of 3 pages of the challenges and what we want. We got many things that we want, but due to limited time, and then we come up with the actionable health system strengthening, step-by-step approach, as well as capacity building for the transformative leadership with the team. With the recognition by various levels, for example, society, staff, or donor, the empowerment is very important for the country to be the driving seat. Institutional development, community-based approach with a comprehensive health system, multi-sectoral involvement or engagement, and including the management skill, management of ICT at the local level. For the health professional is another thing that we think it is very important that we need. Come up with some sexy title. Might be the dynamic learning, adaptive, with the multi-sectoral approach that we need for comprehensive people-centered services. This will come under the transformative leadership of the MOH. Thank you.
In terms of buzzwords, I think you're making great strides here. Because you see transformative, adaptive, comprehensive, multi-sectorial, it's all beautiful. I think people-centered also, yeah. Okay, I have not forgotten any table. I think we got everybody now. Now the jury has to come back to the center here. So we have, how could I? So while the jury is sitting, we have the final table, knowledge management. How could I forget those? All right, so who's talking for knowledge management too? Okay.
Not only you have forgotten our table, but we don't have the same equipment as the others, which is, I think, the problem we have with... Yeah, I will try to summarize a bit the things we have discussed here in the table. I think one of the things related to the knowledge management is the demand and how we define the demand related to the knowledge within the health system and related to universal health coverage in particular. So we think that the demand should become bottom-up rather than top-down, the definition of the demand. And also we need to link the demand or the knowledge that will be defined within this UHC should be linked to the objective and actions of the universal health coverage, and especially the objective of by 2030 objective. So, and then the other thing is the reasons why we need to focus on that. First, because there is a problem of time. Knowledge is not produced when we need it, and it takes time to produce the knowledge, and when by then it becomes useless in the policy-making process. And the formatting of the knowledge is also problematic, because most of the time it's a research kind of sort of knowledge, and this is not useful for the decision-making process. And also the language used is quite difficult for the policy and decision-making sphere. And there is also problems related to strategy of communication, how to communicate around the knowledge, and also no feedback between the ones who are producing the knowledge and the ones who are using the knowledge. So these are different reasons. The solutions recommended by the group are, first, we have to think of a kind of collaborative process of producing the knowledge, not only within the Ministry of Health, not only within one level of the Ministry of Health, but also with different actors, different agencies, different organizations involved in health and universal health coverage. And once we produce the knowledge and create the knowledge, we need to think of the use of this knowledge. And then we need to translate the knowledge to be understood by the policymakers and decision makers. And we need also to implement mechanisms to assess the quality of the knowledge. And after that, of course, we need to have a function of knowledge management within the system that should be institutionalized within the system, and appropriate tools to be used, and also to build these functions at the level of the country, and also combined with the external assistance. And in the middle of all of this, we need to create platforms for knowledge management, for discussions, for sharing the knowledge, and for also we need to move towards a learning system. So knowledge could be used within learning, learning from the inside, but also learning with other organizations. So, and we have also to think of incentives for each one of these components. And thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's pretty comprehensive. I'm sorry that I overlooked this group. I will never do it again. But very good, and I think you were close to the camera, so the world is actually closer to you than to the rest of this hall. Now, the jury has a fantastically complicated task, so I allow them 5 minutes to deliberate amongst themselves to actually nominate the best solution, or the most interesting solution, and also give a bonus to, you know, number 2 and 3, let's say, so that you don't. In the meantime, we're going to do a little game with all of you, and that is called But Really. The game is called But Really. So you've heard a lot of deliberations, you've heard a lot of solutions, we have had some jokes, but basically you're all very experienced and seasoned people who have seen some of this before. And what I would like you to do is take one nice spacious piece of paper, so blanco paper, and think for 1 minute, honestly with yourself, a little bit like that gentleman at that table there, who's sort of reflecting by himself. Think inside yourself and say, well, yeah, it's all very nice, but really. And then what you would put in your thought, but really. So for instance, I'm thinking, just to give you an example, I'm thinking, okay, this is all very good, all these nice wish lists of beautiful things we could do, but really I know some ministries of health from the inside, and where do we actually start? You know, I have no idea where to start. I mean, something like that. So the but really I would like you to write down, and then we do a very quick round while they are deliberating on some of these but reallys with the people that look to me most cynical. So I start with Australia there, and some other people that have a kind of critical look with a lot of experience. And so I give you a minute to write down your one sentence, but really. So if you can do that now. This is all good and well, but really. Individually, from your experience. Whatever the first one is, that when you listen to this, you would go outside and talk to somebody, say that we had a nice session, and then
Yeah, I think anyway we have too many ideas. Yeah, we need to have just one very big one.
Your first thought, and then we have to copy his, what your first thought about it. All right, I promised I would start this little round. I saw a lot of people have written down something with our colleague here from Australia. That was already in our group yesterday, and I thought this is a critical man. I like him. So when you're listening to all this, I mean, what the first thing that crossed your mind that you would tell a friend if you were outside this room?
But really, what's the added value? Like, I just haven't got a clear sense. How do I make an investment case to my minister to support UHC 2030?
But how do I make an investment case to support UHC 2030? Very serious, because this man is seriously talking to his government. So, I mean, if that is still, after 2 days, not clear, I think everybody who's involved should take this very much to heart. So, thanks very much. This is exactly what we want. This table. Other people at this table who feel the butt really won? Not immediately, then I move to this table. I see something here. There's text.
How do countries stay in the driver's seat?
How do countries really stay in the driver's seat? So the concern here is all good and well, but how do countries really stay in the driver's seat? Any other reflections here at this table? Yes.
To be perfectly honest, but really, it comes down to people wanting to work together to achieve a common goal.
Okay, so really it should come down to people really wanting to work together. So that for you is the beginning and the end of the story. It should start there. And so but really, do people really want to work together is what is implied, because that is what's required. Yes?
Very interesting discussion about how to operationalize them. But how to operationalize them, and what are the next step?
Okay, so how to operationalize all this? It sounds all very beautiful, the very things we've heard, but how do we actually operationalize this? I'm moving to this table here. Anybody who wants to volunteer? We're not going to take everybody, but let's see. Yes?
Oh. I think it is daunting, but not impossible.
So he would say, he would go outside and say, it's actually very daunting, but not impossible. That's nice. I like that one. Daunting, but not impossible. I see a good text here, long text.
But really, how many years before these new ideas translate into substantial improvement to people's health?
Okay, so beautiful, but how long does this take before it translates really into people's health? Anybody else at this table wants to volunteer their inner thoughts? A lot of smiles and sort of, anyway. Miriam told me that she had something we wanted to share. Okay.
Population, citizen voice at the center, people-centeredness, but really the population has as many diverse hopes, needs, requirements as there are ethnic groups, religions, historical, cultural backgrounds, and individuals. So how do we put that diversity at the center, out beyond the buzzword?
How do we deal with the huge diversity? And so we made it a little game, but these are actually bloody serious questions, all of them, starting with the business case to the diversity dealing. I take one more at this table. No? Yes? So we can go.
So as long as we have health programs competing and groups competing for the same funds, can we really work together?
As long as everybody's actually just competing for the same funds and the funds are scarce, can we really work together? So we can have nice settings, eat good lunches, but basically what are we doing? All right, I think this is very... So if you want to put your thoughts to the group, put it on Miriam's table. You don't have to sign it or whatever, but just put things there if you want. So Miriam is sitting there, and we'll take them into account. Now, the jury has had ample time to deliberate, so now it's over to you. I don't know who's the jury president, speaker. All right. So, you came to a conclusion?
Yeah. First of all, we realized that how bad we are in actions, like taking action. We have great ideas, but how we're going to accomplish them, it's something we need to work at. But we, okay, I will start from the bottom too, so that we put some. So the third place, yeah, it should be like the third place is the idea of learn from failure that had the group there. It was like, we really think that's something we need.
Okay, the group that wants to learn from failure, please get up here, the bronze medal winner.
Yoo-hoo! Okay, what's the next? The second place is what? Bronze? No.
Silver.
Silver. The silver is for an innovative idea, we think, and it was about population thinking. The mess that they had over there with the drawing, population thinking, yeah, that's the second place.
Okay. So the nice visualization from the hierarchies of the ministry to the population thinking, which was still very happy chaos. But that group, get up, the silver.
It's also from the systems thinking.
From the systems to the population thinking. So very good, I think big applause for them.
And as presidents don't want to do all the talking, first place you can announce.
Me? Okay, thanks. Okay, the first place goes to two schemes. It is the flower and it is the solar system, which express the same idea in two different ways, which maybe are both necessary. The flower expresses the harmony and beauty that is probably necessary in order to break up systems and replace them with new systems. So there's a feeling that this order, this harmony, this beauty of the flower is necessary. You can't just break up things and then enjoy the happy chaos. And the solar system expresses the dynamism, because the system where health is no longer the center of the universe, but it's just one of the planets around something called universal health coverage, which still contains health at the center, but not the Ministry of Health, not the health sector, not the health silo, is the dynamism that these existing silos still keep moving and doing something, but this time together around a common cause. So that is number one.
Now, so there's two groups standing up. I think the flower was over there. Yeah, I think you were the flower. And then the solar system was... Where's the solar system? That group. Okay. Now, congrats. Thanks very much for all this. Thanks to the jury. I think you were absolutely fab. And no bribes exchanged, no money being changed under the table. This was a totally independent and accountable jury. All right. I want to actually ask Marjolijn to come over here now, if possible. Max of the World Bank. Is Max still here? We're looking for Max. Is he still here? Okay, because we're almost coming to the close of this whole session. At 4:30 we'll break for the coffee break. But I think it's very important to draw a few conclusions. And of course it was done in a little bit of playful way, but it still leaves also a lot of people questioning, because we've had 2 days, intensive days, with networks yesterday, with sort of a plenary exploration today, amongst a group of people that is actually very experienced in aspects of this health system strengthening in a world that is rapidly changing. So Marjolijn has been very much involved with, from the Secretariat, setting everything up. I want to ask you just a few personal questions first, because you look now with a smile. This lady has been running around so much that with all the people that are behind her, I actually want big applause for her, because, you know, this girl has been working. But this was not a gratuitous event. This is not a gratuitous event. So we have done this morning, we talked about the MOH space and experiences that are currently there. The session with Richard, we were talking about, well, can we actually build a shared vision? Is that possible, given all the diversity that is there? And this afternoon, we seriously wanted to explore at the tables, and I heard a lot of interesting discussions that were not necessarily all reflected in the feedback, but we know all that, you know, there are all kinds of barriers also inside ourselves, inside our organizations, inside the institutional landscape that make it sometimes very hard to collaborate. And we heard in the but really around a lot of these things expressed. So we need, I think, if people are committed, and a lot of you are because you're still here, we need to start to move beyond. So I want to give you a little bit of, you know, reflection time yourself now on. You have been thinking so much about to move also with the Secretary to help move this platform. Is it to your satisfaction what has happened the last few days?
Well, I wanted to have my colleague Max Dapper from the World Bank, because obviously there is a core team being across WHO and the World Bank, but he's probably doing some other things. But yeah, for me, I'm very happy with the meeting. I was a little bit anxious because bringing so many people who are used to come to meetings to discuss very hardcore technical issues, I was thinking, well, you know, how do we keep them engaged for, you know, a day discussing how to collaborate? And we don't, you know, we are building something new, and we are still not quite sure exactly how this UHC 2030 animal will be. But I think there were plenty. I mean, there was a lot of energy, which is encouraging. Obviously, people want to engage, and there are good reasons to engage. Of course, we still need to figure out where we can really add value so that we are not adding to the complexity of the global health scene. But as came out from the steering committee yesterday, as we open up, we broaden the mandate, broaden the membership base. Obviously, we need to also think, how can we are moving from the IHP agenda. I mean, some of the IHP agenda will remain, but we need also to figure out how can we be useful for a different set of actors. And I think there were plenty of good ideas, so we will take them on board, reflect, and then in the next few months, there will be a window of opportunity for us to adjust also the work plan. And of course, we will learn as we go in terms of how to engage with how all the different partnerships can engage. And my own thinking during the little exercise before was thinking, oh, you know, how will this work? I mean, it's a little bit scary, and being in the core team and having to support this, I was thinking, well, you know, that's challenging. And it's been a challenging since I joined WHO earlier this year. But now I feel I'm not alone, obviously. You know, the family is here. The health system family is very dynamic, and so we can make it work all together. And actually, this meeting was prepared in close coordination with all the colleagues supporting the various health systems, partnerships, and initiatives. So I think something is changing, or at least there is a hope that something can change.
Thanks very much. Has Max returned in the meantime? He's not yet there. Okay. We're a little early, but I think it is important that people maybe stretch their legs, because we have a formal closing panel which will start at 5 with some high-level representatives from different countries. That's called Acting with Ambition. And we started with Acting with Ambition. I asked all of you yesterday morning, are you willing to do so? But you know, we have a sort of confirmation of that ambition at 5 o'clock. Now, before we break up a little early and you can stretch your legs, do your meals before that meeting, I would like to just look around the room and say, if there are people who at this stage still feel that they want to say something in the plenary before we go to the official closure, please do so. So I'm looking around. You say, well, we need to questions, remarks, special. Everybody happy and waiting for a leg stretch. All right, then thank you all very much for having been such devoted participants in all this. And we see each other at 5 o'clock when there is the formal closure meeting. Thank you.